and he just tore himself out. Maybe you guys might put that, explain to him in his language, his own language. Maybe he thinks I'm just joking or something. Well, I really mean it. He needs to go on the rest.
The 5th of Shvat, Hemshech Samech Vav, page Samech Vav.
Right. So sort of through the Kavor Selma Hushamayim, the Polish from Rusa de Liba, that's his Kashas of the Rotzen. We saw that was the Pneumius of Rusa de Liba, was the Indian's Kashas of Tsuina. That was spoke length when we dealt with the Madrega of Rusa de Liba. Achachach, Vayimrim, Vahoyu Advorim Oeila, in Krishna Tzal. And the Gemara says in Sekta Brachas, but Divrei Torah Hakosu Madaber. Immediately after B'chol Miyei Dercha, then we immediately state that Vahoyu Hadvorim Ha'ela. That's referring to the union from Divrei Torah. The Achla B'chinas Rusa de Liba B'chol Miyei Dercha, but that brings to the union from Aveda Bi'ar B'ligvul Adidei Kiyum HaMitzvahs B'Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shamayim, but that follows on from B'chol Miyei Dercha. Then Mamshichim Teisvus Oirois B'Torah. We discussed what it's hard to say a concept of that nature, Teisvus Oirois in Torah. That meant to be Magala, the Inif and Elikus through Torah, the Inif and Elikus in the world. The Torah is not just a limud and a dvar chochmah elikis, but it comes a mokia, a kil elikus to all the boy oilam. The Hina Ksiv, we now start a new Indian now on that basis of the being Mamshich Teisvus Eiras B'Torah. It's written a pasuk in Yeshaya Novi, Koil Hanikro Vishmi Ulichveidi Barosiv Yatativ, and then it continues on the pasuk Af Asisiv. I also made it. Everything which is called in my name, literally, Koil Hanikro Vishmi. Ulichveidi, and that which is for the sake of my honor, not only which is called in my name, but for the sake of my honor. Then Barosiv Ratzativ Afasisiv. I created it, and I shaped it, and I made it. So it's not understood what is the hemshech of the pasuk. What does it mean that everything is called in Abish's name? He created it. Of course he created it. I mean, what would be the question? What kilo is the purpose and the announcement that pasuk is making? So therefore you have to see it in its context. That pasuk is in the Kapitlach in Yeshaya Novi, where he talks openly about the Geula Shlema. Kapitel Mem Gimel. But over there, the pasuk prior to this one, the Abish says he will bring his children and his daughters, that means the Yidden, from all the different countries and corners of the earth where they've been in the Golas, and he'll bring them back to Kodesh, and he'll say to the north that it should give forth his children, to the south it should produce them, and so on and so forth. And then immediately it says, Koil Hanikro B'Shmi Ulichveidi Barosiv Yatativ Afasisiv. And then it goes on further with the Inyanim, which are talking openly about the Geula Shlema. So I thought, what's the purpose of this pasuk in the middle? Koil Hanikro B'Shmi. What does that kilo have to do with it? So therefore comes along Rashi. Rashi says that Koil Hanikro B'Shmi refers to the tzaddikim. The tzaddikim, what they're called in the Eibishter's name, they literally are, the Eibishter proudly places his name on them, and they are his honor, they're his glory. The tzaddikim, they bring and produce and promote the glory of Hashem. Then, I've created and I've made and I've prepared everything they're going to need for the Geula Shleima. They stay taught in Rashi. In other words, since I'm already promising that they're going to be brought back, so if they're going to be brought back to Eretz HaKodesh in the Shleimus of the Geula, then they're going to need everything they need when they get to Eretz HaKodesh. So the Eibusha said, Barasiv, Yitzartiv, Af, Asisiv, I've prepared everything for all these people who are Nikra, Bishmi, Uli, that's referring to the Tzaddikim. So very fascinating Pirush in that pasuk. Rashi learns how it fits so perfectly in the midst of these psukim, announcing and talking about the different details of the Geula. Very remarkable opinion that we should be learning, particularly at this particular moment. So comes along the Rebbe and he brings down, not Rashi, he brings down the Targum Yonasan. But the Targum Yonasan says a very similar thing to Rashi, but he says it in a more Aramic and sort of original type of statement, that he says that the Kol Hanikra Bishmi Upira, I'm sorry, where are we? The Koi, and it is referring to Neshamas Israel. In other words, the Kol Hanikra Bishmi Ulukveit is referring to Yidden. Okay, Moshe Targum Yonasan. Kol do begin avos chayin, the tzadikayu or something like that. And so the pasuk says that, according to Targum Yonasan, what it means is that why am I going to take all my children from the north and from the south? I'm going to bring them all from all corners of the globe into Eretz HaKodesh. All of that, kol do, koil is referring to all this that I've promised, is bishvil. That's what he writes over there. The Targum Yonasan, he puts in the word bedil. Between kol do and begin, he puts in the word bedil. But the Rebbe doesn't bring that here. It's written bishvil, begin ahavos chayin, your forefathers, Avram, Yitzchak, Yankee. And he says that because of the tzadikaya and all the tzadikim of all the Yidden since Avram, Yitzchak, Yankee. And he's doing it, and then he goes on to say over there quite amazing things, the Targum Yonasan. But he says it the same way as Rashi, that the Eibusha says he's preparing everything that these children, when they come back from the Golas, in the schools of their forefathers and all the tzaddikim, that those are the ones that are mamish nikro and bishmi, then everything will be there in Eretz HaKodesh for them that they will need. He will prepare it and create it and bring it about, everything that they will need, b'zeh ha'olam. So, we see then that koil hanikro bishmi, all of these things which are promised are for those who are nikroim bishmi. And who are they? The Yidden, or particularly the tzaddikim. So that's the simple pirush, that all the inyanim in this pasuk are for the sake of and are based around the Yidden. Now the Rebbe says, however, another pirush. He says, pirush, and this is already the Chassidish pirush, Lafi, it brings itself in several drusha Chassidim, in many places in Tzilas. Well, pirush koil hanikro bishmi, nikro hu loshen nifal. It's like a form of a passive, or how do you call it, bringing something about. Nifal, we're causing something to happen. So what is the pshat? Shehein, referring to literally the Yidden, nikroim v'nimshokim b'shmi. They literally, how do you call it, are being called down and are being derived, the nimshach, into my name. Now, what does that mean? Not that the Yidden are being called down into his name, but we'll see more exactly as we go along. What it means is that the Yidden, they cause they poel hamshocha and a derivation b'miyuchad of Elikus into the level of shmui, of a Kodesh Baruch. So nikro b'shmi means the Yidden, who they are literally causing my name to be called. In other words, what does it mean, causing my name to be called? they're causing my name to be increased in such a way that it becomes very obvious that everybody would want to call it its name. In other words, they bring down some hamshocha into the Eibishter's name, which literally greatens and sanctifies the name in such a way that it becomes nikro and begolui to all the created beings. He said that's the lashon nifal. Not so much that they are nikroim, but they are called in the sense that they cause things to go down into Shmi. Or moire ha'inyan, and it seems that the matter tends to indicate shebechina Shmi hulamata mimisha nikro v'nimshach sham no maila. From that it would appear that the level of Shmi is lower than the level, or he who is being nikro v'nimshach sham. In other words, if I say koil anikro is literally referring to Yidden, and bishmi means that they are being mamshich and megala things into Shmi, then that appears that they're beyond Shmi. They're higher than the level called Shem, Shmi, and they're causing a yerid of Amshocha into Shem. In other words, that they are higher than the Shem, and they sanctify the Shem, meaning that they bring down a Tosfos Gil of Amshocha into the level of Shem. So therefore he said, from that it would appear that the union of Shem is Lamata, Memisha Nikro, and Imshach Sham. Milmaila. Ukiyadua. So he said if we take the union house Alpi Kabbalah and consider us, it will make more sense. Ukiyadua, the Shmi, Hubchinas Malchus. Shmi means the Eibishter's name, but that is the sphere of Malchus, the last of all the spheres in Atzilas. And why is Malchus connected with the union from Shem? Because it's well known that a king runs his whole kingdom through his name. His name is what does everything. The atzmus of the king remains hidden in his palace or in his whatever it is, but his name literally goes all over the Medina, and everybody becomes very devoted subjects when they hear the name of the king, when he announces things through his name. And that's the idea of him sealing his seal on all of the proclamations and all of the arbitrations and all of the watchmen which are given out for the sake of the running of the country. It's not he himself, but it's his name. So therefore Malchus, the whole concept of kingship, is connected with the union of name, Shem. And therefore we say in Krishma, Baruch Shem Kveid Malchus. That Kveid Malchus is connected with the concept of the name, of his name. So therefore Malchus is the lowest of all the spheres, in the sense that it's the last of all the spheres, not necessarily the lowest, but it's the last. And from there begins the whole kingship of Hashem. That's where he begins to bring forth all the separate subjects, which are Bria, Yitzir, V'yah, Sia, and he rules over them with Kaviyah, with the divine name, which comes from Atzilas, and particularly Malchus, the Atzilas. But he said, V'Yisrael, Heim Lamayla Mishmi. But we just said that Kol HaNikra B'Shmi means that they cause a Hamshocha into Shmi, but that implies that they are higher than the actual Shem. So he said, Yidden are from a higher level than Malchus, from the Shem. V'Heim Lamayla Mishmi. The Yisrael Olo B'Machshova. It's well known, the statement of the Medrash, that the Yidden literally rose up into the Eibishter's thought. Olo B'Machshova. And as another famous medrash called the Tona Devei Eliyahu, it says, "Umachashavton shel Yisrael kodmo chulu." So what does it mean by the word kodmo? That the machshava of the Yidden, by the Eibishter, his machshava about Yidden, primordiated, how do you call it, preceded all the other inyanim. And therefore it's brought down over there that this was koydem lozeh, and this was koydem lo something else, this was koydem lo olam, this was koydem, and then it says, machshavton shel Yisrael kodmo l'chol dover. That's the hemshech of that medrash, that all madregas, the machshava of the Yidden was higher and primordial, very good, superseding and prior to all the other madregas. And that's what we mean, that Olo B'ma b'machshava. And that's the union of machshava ha-keduma, as it's called in certain places, the primordial thought of the Eibishter. So ma b'nagel inyon, he knows that malchus is shame. So shame is a gilu bilvad, a ha'ora bilvad from the mensch, and it's also connected sometimes with the union of dibur, because your name is made up of letters which are shayat to dibur, and also you give out the expression of your good name or otherwise goes out in the form of your dibur, the way you speak. That's what makes an impression on people. One way or the other, or for all sorts of good inyanim, or maybe cholila, not just good inyanim, but chuli, that goes through the union of speech, through the union of dibur. So therefore, shame and dibur have got a connection. But machshava is higher than dibur. Machshava is primordial to dibur, and therefore we see that machshava is very much miyuchad with the essence of the person. As it's brought down, you can never stop thinking. So if somebody says, "Oh yes, I can," because I'll tell you that I'm not thinking now. So it's brought down in a moment for the Mittler Rebbe that even if somebody says that he's not thinking now, he's thinking how he's telling you that he's not thinking. In other words, he really is thinking even about that. But the union for dibur is something that you can put on or take off. And it's brought down in certain places. The more you take it off than putting it on is better. In other words, the less you use the vernacular expression, the less you open your the better. You understand that you shouldn't talk too much. Yeah. So therefore, dibur is a thing that can sort of be put on or taken off. In other words, it's a certain yerida from the actus with the etzem. But it's brought down. Why do you think the whole time? Because machshava is so united with your pnimis, with your etzem, then your etzem never ceases or never stops. It's always expressing itself and always living and talking with the chayas ha'atzmiyas, right, of the neshama. That's the neshama, the pnimiyat. And therefore the machshava is united with that, and therefore it's always working as well. But it works in a slightly more rushtai form, but in other words, it works in a way of union with the etzem. Mashiach in dibuna, and dibur is more connected with shmi. Mashiach in the neshamas, their union is machshava, and they're united with the etzem. Therefore, the Tana de Ve'eliyahu says that machshavtot shel Yisrael kodmo, they are primordial l'chol dover. Anything you consider in the whole creation and in the shores of the creation, then the neshamas of the Yidden are higher. So therefore, said that's the pshat, that the neshamas are mashpia into the name. Nikro b'shmi means they are being called down and they are giving down their benefit of their high madrega into the union of shame. And that's what they are called, as we'll see in a minute. Yidden are called Mekadeshei Shamecha, that they bring down a Kedusha and a much higher madrega into the level of Shmi.
By the point that the Yidden higher than the level of Shmi, is that an important point to say that you can only draw something down into something that's lower than you?
Oh yes, my child. Well, you can be mashpi on something that's on the same madrega, but to be mamshich and magala something is only into something which is lower than yourself. So therefore he says that Nikra hu loshen nifal. B'malchus v'Yisrael heim l'mayla mishmi. The Yisrael olav machshava u'machshavton shel Yisrael kodmo l'chol dover. Over there in the Medrash, in Tana de Ve'eliyahu. And kodma means the concept of primordialness, like precision in the sense of precedence, in the sense of higher level of union with the etzem. If we go back to the very shorish of everything, bechinas shmi, he bechinas malchus dain seif, k'moy shehu lifnei ha-tzimtzum, shezeu bechinas shmi ha-miyuchad bi, וכמיימה עד שלא נברא העולם שזהו לפני הצמצום הוא ושמוילה לבד. That's a famous statement brought down in the Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. Prior to the creation of the world, there was the Eibishter and his name on their own. Bilvad. So the Rebbe says that in the very shorish of everything, we also see that Shmi, the level of shame, is lower than what you might call the etem. It's only like a revelation of the etem, because we say that it's what we call Malchus, the Ein Seif. In other words, that even though we're talking about Ein Seif, Mamish, we use an expression, Malchus, the Ein Seif. But this occurs in the Kisvei Arizal. This famous expression, Malchus, the Ein Seif. And the Arizal must be, why do we say it's such a loss of Malchus, the Ein Seif? Because here we're talking the Lifnei Tzimtzum, and the which is Kilu Ha'atzmus Beregezeh, there's nothing else to be Megala to. There's all Kilu Bifnim in the Gilu of the Etem himself. And so the Etem gives forth a Gilui which is called Oyer. And in that Oyer there are gradations. That Oyer undergoes certain, what you might call, derivations or gradations. And the Rizal says we call those gradations B'Shem Sfirois, Afapi She'ein Shom Sfirois. You can't really talk about Sfirois. But Ki'ilu Noima, Ki'ilu was saying that idea in order to help us understand that there is a form of a gradation there. Meaning that there is a form of level of the Gilui Oyer, the very Oyer of the Eibishter, how it is before the Tzimtzum, which has already undergone a certain, what you might call Ha'ora within itself. It's not the very essence of the light, it's like a derivation of the light. It's gone down, even though there's no Nivroim yet, no Tzimtzum, and it's still absolute Ein Seif, an absolute Pshitas, but it's gradated somewhat. And that we call Malchus, we call that like the lowest level. And then in that level of Malchus, the Ein Seif, that's where the Tzimtzum occurs. In that level, we call it a Tzimtzum. In other words, that higher than Malchus, the Ein Seif, we wouldn't have been able to make a Tzimtzum. The Tzimtzum would not have been able, Kaviyachol, to be misgaber on the intensity of the light and the Peshitas of that intensity, meaning the absolute simplicity and the Ein Seif of that light would not have made it able to receive the Koyach HaTzimtzum. In other words, the way we want the Tzimtzum. If therefore, the Eibishter brought it down through another series of gradations, which he calls Malchus the Ein Seif. And in that level of Malchus the Ein Seif, he makes the Tzimtzum. So he said that level of Ein Seif, Malchus the Ein Seif, well, that's called Shmi. Kaviyachol, that's the first appearance of the concept of Shem. And he said that's the union of Malchus the Ein Seif, K'moshehu Lifnei HaTzimtzum, Shezo B'chinas Shmi HaMiyuchad Bi. What sometimes is written about the Shem Havaya, it's written that it's called Shem HaMiyuchad Bi. It's called the name which is united with me, or united in me, literally. Not just with me, but in myself. In other words, that prior to even the Gilui of the Shem Havaya, how it's shot to the spirits in Atzilas, even before all those levels, there's a level of the Eibishter's name, which is also Shem Havaya, but it's what we call Shem Havaya Sheba'atzmas. It's Miyuchad B'tachas Ha'ichud with the Etem, but it's still called Shem Havaya. In other words, it's already a certain gradation for the sake of revelation from the Atmas to bring about a possibility of a Tzimtzum. And so that's called the union of Shmi, but it's still Miyuchad Bi. And that's connected with this famous remark or statement of the Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer, Ad Shalei Nivra Ha'olam Hoyehu Shmoi Bilvad. So the Rebbe teaches, what do we mean by saying Ad Shalei Nivra Ha'olam? So he puts in a word of explanation. Shezeu Lifnei HaTzimtzum Hoyehu Shmoi Bilvad. So here we're teaching, interestingly, that Ad Shalei Nivra, prior to being created the world. So he said, forget about creating the world, because creating the world is a much lower level. Creating the world is when you already get to the end of Malchus Ta'atzilus, and Malchus does, then you make Bria Yesh Ma'ayin, you get Bria Yetzirah B'yah. Asiyah, but here we're talking about even prior to the Tzimtzum. So we say that the Ad Shaloi Nivro Ha'olam, the Pirkei de Rebbe means before there actually occurred the Tzimtzum. In other words, at the beginning of all the Olam is Tzimtzum. That's the beginning of where the whole concept of Brias Ha'olam begins. Now, it's true, it undergoes all sorts of other derivations until we reach the actual meaning of Brias Ha'olam. But the beginning is the ending of the Tzimtzum. So, Koidem or prior to being Nivro, Ad Shaloi Nivro Ha'olam, that's called in the Kisvei Arizal Taich by Chassidus. That means Lifnei Tzimtzum. So Hoya Hu Shmoile. We see that the Eibusha was absolutely alone there. There was nothing. There's not even any Kasal Daita, as you might say, at that moment of any creations or any other beings or even any spheres or anything of that nature. So what do you mean by saying Hoya Hu Shmoi Bilva? And the famous Shaila has it. It's brought down in the Meforshim. Does that have to be that everybody's suffering from the cold? Is that working? Or
it's off.
It's off. Okay. So it's leaving a Rishon. But that's after the Tzimtzum. There was a Rishima, a Rishon. So anyway, we've got enough in our heads as it is at the moment. Suffice it to say that when we say in the Tefillah Adoin Oilon Asher Moloch B'terem Kol Yitzur Nivro, that the Eibusha reigned before there was any created beings. So all the great Meforshim say, what's shy to say? Shemoloch, that he ruled. If there wasn't any created, nothing had been brought about yet. He can only rule when he got subject, when something's there. Then he can say the Eibusha ruled over. But if it was B'terem Kol Yitzur Nivro, what's shy to from Adoin Olam Asher Moloch? But no doubt that a question occurred to certain intelligent readers when they say the prayers every day. But no doubt they put it aside, for further study at some other point in their life. And they said we probably have to have a bit of Kabbalah Sale, so we'll take that with Kabbalah Sale. Adoin Olam Asher Moloch B'terem Kol Yitzur Nivro.
What is it that you're saying they put aside till later? What is it you're saying they're putting aside, not paying attention to?
How can you have Moloch if you don't have any Yitzur Nivro? Is Bamele comes along. Chassidus says that from that, but incidentally that was written by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi was one of the great Rishonim. He knew what he was talking about. So Chassidus says that that's a remez to this Indian of Hoyahu Shmoi Bilvad, that even before there was any talk about Nivroim, even before there was any talk about Olam, it didn't even exist yet, but there was already an Indian called Shmoi, that the Eibusha Kaviyachol, when he first appeared as a in any way that we can talk about him, then he was him and he had a name. Even though there was nobody to call his name and nothing to be revealed a name to, but he was already there with his name. Shmoi Adoin Olam Asher Moloch. And not only that, it's even more of a Kiddush, because we call him Adoin Olam. That even makes the kasha even bigger. So we have to say that B'terem Kol Yitzur Nivro, but they're going to do it, then there's already this Indian of a shame on the part of the Eibusha. So once again, the question goes back now a few ladders higher. What do you need a shame if there's nothing to call him by that name? We were talking about Azamin Dragon, Azamin Level. What are we talking? So that's what the Kisvei Arizal says. When the Eibusha, when it first occurred to him, the whole concept, that Kaviyachol, he would begin to reveal himself, then he revealed himself through a shame. And he was there before anything really happened yet, but there was he and his name. On a much higher level, we can learn Shmoi in the form of what we call in Chassidus Yechoilas. And sometimes we do touch it that way. And then it doesn't mean that he really revealed anything yet. we're talking about even before there was any thought on his part that he might even reveal anything. But that's what we call Yechoiles. That's called capacity. He could reveal a name, not that he really did. Over here we're teaching that he did. That there was this Indian from Hu Ushmoy, which means that there's an ability on the part of the Eibishter to produce a thing which is eventually going to be called name. It's the shortage of a concept which is going to be called name. In other words, that together with his own essential being, there's already the power or the revelation within himself, which is going to lead to a source of Malchus. But that's the idea of Shem. And that's eventually going to become the source of all the Nivroim. Because Malchus is the source of all the Nivroim. But that's the concept of Shem. That's why, according to certain Pirushim, this is already after he's considered deep within the Atzmus this idea of creating what you might call the world, but he hasn't done it yet. It's Lapoil not even, acting in any way. But there's already the shoyrush of what will eventually lead to that. It's called his name. And that's what's called the oyer, and the etzem of the Eibush is called atzmus. The atzmus is literally the light. So what did he need to reveal that light for? He didn't really need, but he did. Because it didn't mean anything yet, but it's still shy to him. But it's like the indication that eventually there's going to be a shoyrush of something which will bring about the whole union of the elements. So therefore it's called Hu Shmai Bilvad, indicating that so far nothing has actually happened. Therefore there's no real appearance of any entity. But it's like the beginning and the shoyrush and the potentiality, what therefore certain Madrega, certain Mephoshim learn that it refers to the Madrega of Yechoiles. So,
this is the level of Etzem Ha'or?
Oh, very nice. According to certain Madregas, according to certain Shittas and Siddhas, it's called the Etzem Ha'or. But in that Gufi, you've got to be careful, because we say, those who learn that it's Etzem Ha'or, they take slightly different. And they say, Hoya Hu Shmoi Bilvad. And so they say the Berega that you say Hu, you're already referring to something. You can't call the Eibush to Hu either. You can't call him Hu. So they say Hoya Hu Ushmoi. They say that Hu is referring to the Etzem Ha'or, Mamish. That's also referring to an Oyer. And Oyer is only what we call the Hispashtas Oyer. You satisfied now? Etzem Ha'or is Pashtas Oyer. And then that undergoes all sorts of other hispashtas. Oh, you're right. There's a famous beer in Tzadik Hay from the Friedrich Rebbe where he teaches the different dags of Hu and Shmoi. Atzmus is not even mentioned as a Atzmus is going under a Bechina. So when we say Hu in this context, we mean both Atzmus and the Kolo B'Teicha Atzmus. Over here we mean Gilur, we mean a Indian of Oyer, but it's still Kolo in the Pshitas of the Atzmus. And so therefore he says, Javu Shmei Amiyuchat Bi, Ushmei, the Bechina Shmoi Zeu a Gilui Doerin Seif to Ba'atzmus. I'm sorry, who a Gilui Doerin Seif. Ba'atzmus, who Bechina so Oyer Ashayach Ela, it's not like you learn, not like you want to say that it's this, Etzem Ha'or, but it's Oyer Ashayach Ela, so we give a dugma there that sometimes we see a mensch deep inside himself, he thinks certain machshavas about a dor chutz mimenu. He thinks about maybe even doing something or being poiled something, but he doesn't think about it in a practical way. It's like deep inside his own self. It's like what's called a kasocha daita. How do you call a kasocha daita? An assumption, like an arising in the mind, that I might eventually do that. It's just very united with the etzem of himself, and that's called a machshava b'shvil azulas amiyuchad bi atzmusay. In other words, he thinks about something, but it's not really shayat to Maisi yet. It's still really miyuchad to himself. And so that's called this Indian we're talking about here. That's talking about the gilui or betoich atzmusoi, ava oir which is really shaykh al-azula.
Shaykh.
To a zulat, to another entity. You follow? And then it has to undergo all sorts of gradations within the dimension until it actually becomes a thing bapoyal. Of an Abish, you can't say that. You can't say that he didn't know if it ever come bapoyal. He didn't. Chodila. The Abish only did everything with a kavana. But he revealed a certain level where that was not yet actually taking place, even though it's for sure cannot take place, but it was still miyuchat b'toich atzmos. And that's called the oyer ha-miyuchat b'atzmos b'shvil ha'olam. And what you said, the etzem oyer, that's not b'shvil ha'olam. So why did he reveal that? That's another side. That's who.
Which level, which sphere is that connected to?
Which sphere is that connected to? In other words, if we say the end of it all is Malchusstein Seif, then what is that? That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Ein Chanami. That's called, sometimes we say that that's the union from the Shurish of Keser, how it's Miyuchad B'toich Atzmas. Or sometimes we can say that it's the union from like Pnimis HaChochma, or Shurish Union HaChochma, which is the beginning of the first union of these scholars. Or sometimes we call it the Shurish of Keser, how it is B'toich Atzmas. Because when a king puts on a crown, then he's already moving out to the actual, even though it's higher than him, but he's moving out into the sphere or to the realm of actual Malchus. So, therefore, says the Rebbe, Hu Shmei Bilvad, Zeh Gilui Doer Ein Seif, to be Atzmus, if we take that inside the Etzem, Hu B'chinas Ha'er HaShayach Elohim. In other words, it's a machshava which has already got a shaykhs to eventually being something, even though at this time it's still more miyuchad with the etzem than it is megale itself to the makabel. And the dogma for that is right, we saw that you can have a machshava inside yourself which is not really for the makabel yet. It's really for yourself, but it's, how do you call it, to use an expression, it's like playing with the idea. It's like, considering the idea. It's just we can't take that Moshe Lamaila because he doesn't consider anything. He only does. And that's why we have to learn to be like the Avish in that part. Don't we? So, he says, the Lachei Nikra Shmoi, the Lachei Nikra Shmoi. In other words, why does a mensch have a name only in order to relate to other? So the truth of the matter is that it's a little deeper than that. We see that your name is very, very important to you in the sense that if somebody calls your name, then you shock yourself out with all your utterance. If all of a sudden you hear your name called, it touches you very deeply. But on the other hand, what do you really need a name for in order to relate to other humans and to all sorts of societies and all sorts of inyanim? You need a name for the sake of a gilui bilbao. So the two things are true lamaila. There's a shurish of the name where it's hu shmeila levod. But ultimately that name becomes the thing which relates to the as a word to the ones kaviyohu who are the makablim, which are the oilamas and things outside of Kodesh Baruch. So therefore he said it's called the name of shame. If we take al derech moshel, the shame of the Adam. Akamoisha b'chinas ha'atzmas poshut b'tachlis ha'aktus peshuta k'moi kein b'chinas gilui ha'atzmas nikra oir ein seif shehu gam kein poshut v'zehu u'shmoi bilvad. So here says the Rebbe that this level of this shmoi koidem atzimtzum, the shmoi which is koloboy, and he said it is literally like him, and therefore we say hu shmoi. To a certain extent, we do like link them together in one phrase. The chorus we should say hu yachadim hu shmoi or something. But the fact that we say hu shmoi, then we tend to somewhat equalize them or in some way. How do you call put them together? So the Rebbe said, how can you possibly put them together? That's just a shame bilvad, it's only a ha'ora, and atzmusa is atzmusa. He said that what we mean by that is that since this Indian is a oyer and a gilui of the etzem, then for the time being it has all the, what you might call, the main characteristics of the etzem in itself. In other words, what is the main characteristic of the etzem? That is what we call poshut betachlis hapeh shitus, that he has no cholila details which make him up. He's not analyzable, he's not in any way shot to any details. He's etzem mudal betachlis havdola, despite all the imaginable perfections how they are in him, but they're in a form of, at that level, they're in a form of peshitus, actus and peshita. And there was in the Rebbe, Shmoi also has that in it. And that's why we have to have the tzimtzum, despite the fact that the Shmoi is only a revelation. It's only a shame, and therefore it's only a luminescence from him, but it's hu Shmoi. We said it in one linking together the two terms, because the Shmoi has in itself certain of the principal characteristics of the etzem, which is peshitas and bligvul, or what we call here ein seif. In other words, that it has absolutely no limitation to its hispashas and to its expansion. So why don't we call it? Why don't we just say who bligvul? Why don't we say who shmoi bligvul or something like that? Why do we say who? And then the Rebbe calls it ein seif, because we want to be careful to stress that this Uyer, even though it's got all the characteristics of the Eibishter, of the Ein Seif, and we call it the Eibishter for a moment Ein Seif, but it's not like the Eibishter in any way, because the Eibishter is primordial. He's also Ein Lei to Chila. The Eibishter never began, he never started, he never is, and never was. He's just what he is. In other words, he's the Infinite Chila. I'm sorry, Ein Lei to Chila. Over this Uyer, that's only Ein Lei Seif, because it does have a beginning. In other words, it only goes out from the atmosphere, because we said he has in mind eventually, Kaviyot, the whole creation, when it comes to do it. Therefore, it's called the Hu Shmoi, but on the other hand, it's only Shmoi, it's not Mamish Hu. But for our purposes, it has in itself some of the main characteristics, which are Peshitas and Ein Seif, but not Ein Lei Tchila, or Ein Lei Seif. So therefore he said, what Actus HaPeshuta means simplicity of the oneness. I mean, in other words, not a oneness which unites details, but a oneness which is Malchatchila beyond the whole concept of detail. So we've earned the beer in the famous expression all throughout, so it's Oyer Ein Seif. That it's a Oyer, but it's called Ein Seif, implying bligvul, and also implying the per shitus, ugam kein per shut. It's beyond any detail or any specificality of any sort. So who ushmai bil? Who ushmai? Both of them, as it were, mentioned in one hemshech. Oma meila. Loi hoyo efshe sheiyeh mizeh hishavas ha'ilamas ki'im alidei atzimtzum u'mokoyim panui. That if Rosh Hashanah makes mokum panui, ve'achar hak nimshach hakav v'finis kav dakuma tumtzah. So here we take a further step now. We step a further inyan. And the Rebbe says now, Lo hoyo efsho sheiyeh mizeh hishavetz ha'olam ki'im alidei tzimtzum. So when the intelligent reader sees that, and l'chera, an exclamation mark appears above his head, and maybe even with a question mark. How can you say Lo hoyo efsha? If you're talking about before the tzimtzum, you're talking about Atzmas Ein Seif. You're talking about the pshitas of the Ein Seif. And how can you say that something wasn't possible? It wasn't possible unless he made a tzimtzum. I mean, the Eibush is omnipotent, isn't he? As if he's omnipotent. Because Like we say in davening in the morning, to your fall, who can possibly say to you what you should do or what you should be poor? So he can do what he likes. Why do everybody say, no, now that we got this air ain't safe and it's a gilly from him and it's push it boy, if we want to have the items, can't have them. Have to bring in a new one and coach him to them. Have to take away the whole gilly of that. If that ain't safe, we have to hide it and reduce it. And we have to bring in a limited gilly, which is called the cow.
Isn't the idea of Hashem doing any action, including being tzamtzum, isn't that in itself a limitation of Hashem?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all the same cycle. You're asking, isn't that a limitation of him? I'm asking, what does he need B'klal to worry about limitations? He can just do what he wants. I mean, as the old saying has it in the vernacular, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. So, as is of the Shaila, yeah, what is that? How is it? Why did what did he need to see him for tzimtzum? So the answer is, he didn't need, the Eibush didn't need the for tzimtzum. No, is it? The Eibush wanted, there's a famous cloud, based on a pasuk in Kohelet. What the pasuk says, "V'gam so ilam, not unbelievable." V'gam so ilam, the whole world, the Eibush placed in the hearts of man. So it's a famous touch in Chassidus, "V'gam so hilem, not unbelievable." So what is in it for hilem? Hilem is the tzimtzum. Meaning that why they had to make the tzimtzum? Because he was worried about the Bnei Adam. In other words, at the end, he's going to have these very limited beings, what they call Adam. And Enoch and he could have just brought about on it, and he could have waved his divine wand even from Aximus and could Shalom Aleichem Adam and there he is. Why did the Eibush make all these different gradations and revelations, so on and so forth? So you know what the answer is. I don't. And the answer is that the Eibush, the Maggid said, the famous Torah from the message of Maggid. He said the Eibush wanted that just like he came down through all these various steps, that the Adam should be able to start at the bottom and go up. And he should eventually be able to reach Mamish, close to Atzmus Yisborach, and the day that he takes upward steps one after the other. So was it a pshat that the man takes steps one after the other? Who is man? I think everybody knows who man is. But certainly you're not allowed to judge one person from yourself, not allowed to judge other people. So maybe I got the wrong idea. Maybe these mans in this class are all tremendously high and unlimited creatures. But I mean, so man is a limited creature. A maximum. What he can understand is dvarim tatuinim l'chera. So no, we say we wanted eventually a man if he was able to go higher and higher and get a bit out of all this, like we saw before, the chumri years, and get out of all the gashmi years, and get out a bit higher, that he should be able to go back and trace his way back to the Atman. Therefore, the Atman made it with a seder. Yeah, that he didn't really need that seder from his omnipotence, but he needed it because that was his kavanah, to make in a way that things would actually make sense. There'd be our revelation, then we'd reduce it, and then we'd do this, and we'd bring back a further revelation, and it can also sort of make a system through which man will be able to grasp how did they able to produce him. You understand the idea? In other words, it was all for man. Everything was for sure. And if you look in Tanya, Perek Mem Tes, that's what the Alter Rebbe said. The Alter Rebbe says that the Eibush made all these unbelievable tzimtzumim, all for the sake of V'sod. But he loved the men so much. The Chas v'Cholila to disappoint the Eibush. Yeah, he loves man. He loves him so much He made all these unbelievable all for the sake of him. But he didn't need it. He said, well, that's what the Rebbe means, loy hoyo efsha, efsha. According to the divine plan, it's efsha. But the divine omnipotence. But then man would never be, there would have been a man, but he would never really figure Atzmas, a limited being is not going to be able to figure Atzmas ain't safe. And no, oh yes, I came from Atzmas ain't safe, here I am, Shalom Aleichem. He would never have any chance. Whenever we went through these auras, do like this, all these things which are light, and we chunked them and we brought it in, so it's possible for him to, that he could return through elevating himself through the ladder to the inner there. So that's what the Rebbe means here by loy hoyo efsha she'iyah mizeh hesavos ha'ilam ki malidei tzimtzum hu mokim panui, that the tzimtzum made a complete vacuum. That we took away the whole gilui, but of course we didn't chas v'sholem. That's what the Alter Rebbe stresses. Even though we talk about mokim panui, we don't mean cholila that the Eibishter actually made a mokim panui. He's still there, and so is his oil. Everything is still there, but he made it in such a way that it would hide from the Makablim. That the Makablim would only receive a light which is shy to them, and they would get to a certain point where they had to say, oh, here was a big, like withdrawal. Here's something you withdrew from us, and that's called the Inin of the Tzimtzum of it. Not that there really is any Tzimtzum. But the Alter Rebbe had Mesilas Nefesh for them. There's one on, the famous Inin of Tzimtzum, Kalei Kipshutai, is the famous doctrine of the Alter Rebbe, K'mavor. In Sha'ar Eichad V'Emunah, Perek Lamed Gimel, in Tanya, Bekitza, Nimrat, V'Eid Kama Mekayimets.
When you said that how everything, all of this was just for the Adam, it would seem like Hashem had loved this concept of Adam even before he did anything, even before he created it.
Yeah. That was the motivation. Not that he first of all started, and then he said, oh yeah, maybe I love this Adam. He loved the Adam. Therefore he made all these things for his sake. Which means that the love that the Eibishter has for us is deep inside Atzmusa.
But we existed even before the world came around.
Yeah.
I say three things. There was Hashem, Kodesh Baruch, there was Araisa, and there was Bnei Yisrael. Three things that existed before the world came into being.
Who's this?
As it says in Chassidus, no, that there are three things that existed.
This is
No,
no, it's okay. But
you didn't the Torah.
Say first written in sages, and Chassidus explains it.
No, so yeah, just to the point.
Yeah, no. So you're trying to say there's three things. Yeah, that's
so
Yisrael, the Eibush, and Torah. Yeah, Torah we're coming to. We didn't get to Torah yet. Bentam we got only Yisrael and the Eibush. We have with the Bentam we only got the Eibush with the Oirei. So we've got to see how when he didn't come in, we haven't quite worked that one out. You follow? We're on our way to the ball game, as you might say. So he said that he made, he took away the whole Eden of the Gilu. Because this Gilu is a oil, and it's only a light, and a luminescence, and a aura, but it's got all the same things that the Atzmas has. It's Pshita on Ein Shape. So therefore he said that wouldn't be possible for that. I was trying to be Mavaya, that lesson, it wouldn't be possible. Because if you just ever grow up and you learn with the Talmidim or somebody or a friend or you teach lo you after, then you got to be very careful how you teach it. So I just gave you a tip off. In other words, we had to take away that whole light. Well, that whole light, if we left it, would have been too much. Yeah, so here we see also almost we're contradicting ourselves. That we made a big light all this way down, and then we took it away. So you might say, well, what do you make all that light down here? Start down here and then just keep going. What do you make all this light that was kilo ain't safe from Shitas and do it? And then you take it all away, and then you bring back a cover. The cover is loy be'erek l'kol zeh. What'd you make all that for? You guys are all fast fluffing. It's all this kashi.
It was at Fabregan last night.
Huh?
We were at the Fabregan last night.
Out of Fabregan, that's supposed to make you 5 times as levity.
What?
Verbrennen, that's supposed to make you verschlafen. I heard it was a good verbrennen, Kasha was.
The best.
For my limits.
The best.
I knew his father. His father used to be the Rosh Hashanah over here. His father was an Alti Yerushalayim, Chabadshke. And he used to run the Kurl. We used to have a Kurl over here. I used to be on the Anholov and the Kurl in those days. For years I'm not on the Anholov and the Kurl. I never retired, but I was just never called again. But anyway, we used to have some of our Yingelites, some of the Yingelites from our program lived in the Kurl over here.
Huh.
And his father, he was the Russian Kurl. He was an amazing guy. He was Yerushalmi, little fellow with a big Yerushalmi Hitler, his big round Hitler. He used to live in the dorms during the week, and on the Shabbos he would go home. All these different times he would go home. Friday or sometimes Thursday night he would go home, but he was always back Sunday. And he used to have a room in the dorms. He couldn't be bothered traveling back and forth. And he stayed in the dorms. Matter of fact, his room was what used to be my office, not the one we're at now, but the one was my office for a long time. So it's alongside where I am. That's where he used to live. His father, the father from the Yingemanli Verbrennen. Yeah. So, a lot of little stories to be told. But we have to go further. Edify. What we're saying, you guys didn't have a cash now. I've forgotten myself what the cash was.
I have a question. Why make the comment? I have a question from like 20 minutes ago. You said Hashem has no beginning, no end. He has.
No, we're talking about Atzmus. Talking about the Eivis and Mamish. The Atzmus say no beginning and no.
But then you said he wasn't and he isn't.
No. I said the light, the oil which is Meir Mimeno, that has your beginning, even though there's no end. Voilà. So work that one out.
Not was and not is. You said not was and not is.
No. The Eivisha is not was and not is.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
How does that? I agree with you. But the oil is, but there was a point where it not was. Okay, so he says, yeah, what are we talking about? We had a kasha here. Oh yes. Oh yeah, I remember what the kasha is. Why did the Abish have to make up to the Tzimtzum and the Tzimtzum? Just make Malchat Chila from that level down. Why do you have to make all this tremendous oil and gradate it also a bit and have all these different gradations? Then have a Tzimtzum, then make a Kav. Make Malchat Chila the Kav. Make Malchat Chila the first revelation with the Kav. Who is on the Ganze? You follow?
Yeah.
So what's the answer? The answer is Ein Chanami, Emes. That's also. And then it would also maybe been to a certain extent shy that the Mensch could go to reach the cover, to reach up into the Pnimis HaKav. That's only a high elevation on the part of the Mensch. But then ultimately what the Eibishter wants is that we should be able to bring down even that oil which is before the Tzimtzum. In other words, that even though the whole world is only because of the Tzimtzum, and our whole being is only because of the Tzimtzum. He wanted to give a possibility that we should eventually be able to be mamshir even that oil which is not shaykh to us at all by different nitzon, but through the uniform mitzvahs and through the uniform mesilas nefesh, through all sorts of good sachen, that we should be able to mamshir even that oil which is l'mayla legamre from the whole inyan of the tzimtzum. That was therefore he had to give it a place that it should first of all be misgaleh. And only once you let a thing out, then it's possible to be mamshir some way or another. Because if he would never have revealed it, then mamish to be mamshir from the Atzmus would be too hard even with all the miles that we have. Therefore he had to first of all would be magaleh so that we should eventually be able to be mamshir.
What?
The Ur Shulchnei Tzimtzum. Yeah, the Ur Kolu Mamshir, he even spoke about the Ur Kolu Batshmas. The Etzemoyer, what he called the Etzemoyer, even that we can be Mamshir. And the Rebbe says that we can be Mamshir Chatzim. But if you tell a Litvak that he'll disintegrate. Yeah, they don't like you saying that. They say Atzma can't do anything about that. You can't even talk about it. You know.
They know what Asmus is?
Oh, good question. Do we know what Atzma is?
Do they know?
So I mean, mamshich this. You're gonna mamshich the level into the keli of the world, which the world can take it.
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, those are good to Shaila. Since the whole world only comes about through the Tzimtzum, and it's only through the Helam of that whole area that it's possible to bring about a world. What do you mean you're going to be mamshich that back into the world? Or mamshich into the world? The world won't be able to take it. What's your answer? You have to learn Tanya. Learn Tanya, the altar is in Perek Lamed Vav. The altar brings that the Eibush is going to give koyach, but tzadikim lechabel schora. The Eibush is going to give koyach into the tzadikim. They should be able to be makabel the schar. Which is give them koyach. Give them the schar. They'll take it for good money. You're going to give them schar. They're not going to take his schar. But you have to give them koyach. They should be able to be makabel the schar. Because it's too high for the world to be makabel. But the Eibush will give special koyach. And then there's another church, but I'll tell you that another time. There's also another church. There's also the church on the world of Tanya. Look it up, you'll see. Emmanuel said, "Zehu shmei bavad u'mamela lo ha'efshei shein ve'achar כך nimshach hakav b'chinas kav dak u'metum cham." In other words, then you get now a new isgalas of a line, kav, which is literally thin, dark, because it's metumtam in its very entity. It's they call it thin and reduced, dark umetumtam, meaning that it's a oya gvuli b'yemen. In other words, that now we've gone to an amazing new idea that we're bringing light, divine light. The kav is light; it's not kelim. The kav is not kelim. The kav will help to determine the kelim as well. But the kav is gilur. And so how can you have a oya mitzum tam? So the kav is how do you call it? What's it, something that can be and can't be at the same time? Paradox. Okay. The kav is a paradox. In other words, the kav is oya, and oya is me'ein hamoya, oya is similar to the moya. Therefore, the kav is supposed to be Gilui ain't Seifi, and yet it's not. It's Matum Tam. In other words, we've got here now an amazing Indian where the koyach of the gvul represented by the tzimtzum has even moved into the oil. That the oil has somehow or another become limited in its very essence, which by definition it's not like that. So therefore the kav is like a paradox.
Wouldn't it depend on what perspective you're looking at it from?
Well, it does. But that doesn't alter the fact. I mean, we look at it from the perspective of the gvul in the kav. The pnimis of the kav is really bleakul. So I mean, how can you have both? Then you can't. So therefore, the kav is just the most amazing. The kav is really, in a way, much more perfect than the Urshel is now tzimtzum. Because the kav, to a certain extent, unites in itself two opposites almost. It has in itself the bleak rule of the Ur, and it's tucking the Ur again. But it's the Ur how it's being made in a limited way that the Elam should be able to be makaber. Therefore, the shorish of the kav is really very, very high. The shorish of the kav. The shorish of the kav has got to do with the yechelos ha'atzmus, etc., etc. Aber mitzad the etzem gilu hadover, it's already a inge von kav mitzum tam, and it goes into that mokum pona. As the kaviyah, you've got this vacuum, then the kav comes into the vacuum and relights up the vacuum, but it only just comes into the vacuum. The vacuum used to be pshitas or ain't safe, and now it's not. So the kav is like a line shining into almost what you might call a open space, and then it's filling up that open space with a whole new concept, which is the concept of a limited entity. Even though we have to say that B'Pnimis is not so limited. And then it runs into further limitations in the kav itself, which of course they called these curtains, parsoid, sheyiyeh yisavos ha'olam ha'atzilas. In other words, in order to bring about even Atzilus, which is still Gilui Elokus Mamish, you have to have these like curtains that they curtain off the intensity of the light. Because when you put a curtain in front of a very bright light, you still have the light on the other side, but it's very dull, as you might say. It lessens the whole intensity of the light. So that's the sign of these parsoids. But that leads to the Idif and Olam Atzilus. Then you have another very profound and heavy type of parsa, which leads to the union of Bria. Now, what's the difference between Atzilus and Bria? Because Atzilus and Mami still Gilui. Atzilus is Elokus Mami. Mashikin Bria is already Yesh Mi Ayin, and therefore the parsa is a much heavier parsa until it's compared to a sandal, the whole thing on the foot, the ganze Riches. Ad Yisavos Olam Ha'asiyah. Like I mentioned, is boiling here, but Dibba Machel tell us Noyach, but everybody remembers with crystal clarity of that Indian, how at the beginning of the Drusha over there we had this whole concept of the parsoid, the limitations in the divine light after the Tzimtzum, a further form of limitation called parsa. Albeit, the Indian from the parsa is a very special type of Tzimtzum. Therefore we can't go into all the details now, but we refer you back to that portion of the Hemshah. But that just stresses how much you need to do your Chazara. You shouldn't, how do you call it, bite off one end, but don't forget the other. No. Moving mizeh, the al-Kopanim, B'chidas Malchus, they ain't safe. Who shoyrish, hold Isha in the Kol HaIshtalfus Tabiyah. Now it's measurement that this Malchus ain't saved, or this oil which preceded the actual Tzimtzum, it's like a form of a shoyrish to all the Ishtalshalas of Abiyah. Atzilus Bria, Yitzir V'ah, Asiyah. So I asked the question, how can you say that? I mean, I just said it's a shoyrish. We just said that Malchus ain't saved. Also have to have the Tzimtzum. You have to make the Tzimtzum of Malchus ain't saved. So the answer is the fact that we could make the Tzimtzum, the fact that there's able to be a Tzimtzum B'klal in Malchus Dein Seif, well, that indicates that in Malchus Dein Seif there must already be some ability to receive a Tzimtzum. Because like we pointed out, that where they got Pshitas, B'tachas HaPshitas, and Bligvul, B'tachas HaBligvul, together with the Pshitas, then even if you were to try a Tzimtzum, it wouldn't be able to bring about the Inyan Tzimtzum. You have to have a certain yerida in the Inyan of the oil in order that oil should be able to be makabel Tzimtzum. Now that's what the Rebbe means, that even though the Malchus Dein Seif itself is beyond the Tzimtzum yet, it's not mamish, but the Tzimtzum occurred in that level, therefore we have to say that it's to a certain extent a shoyrish, even though the shoyrish of the Ishtalsha starts on the other side of the Tzimtzum. We have to say that it's a shoyrish of the Tzimtzum, and therefore that's the union of Shmi, and therefore what we want is Kol HaNikro B'Shmi. We want to now, as we've got through this whole union from Malchus Dein Seif, we've got the whole union from the Eilamers, we've got Shmi, or that's what it from Malchus Dein Seif, and eventually it becomes Malchus D'Atzilas, Malchus Kol Elamim, and then we say, well now, we don't just go back and bring it down, want to bring down the whole big time for the L'mayla V'Atzimtzum back into that oil and make it Mikadeshei Shamecha, that we bring into that Shmi a Gilui from the oil L'fnei Atzimtzum. So how do we do that? We'll have to leave you until future episodes, because you should be able to be misboin and how we're going to do that. So the answer is mitzvahs and Torah.
Wow.
That's it.
In that order, and the immediate union will be Iskalas Melech HaMashiach. Take it from me out now.
Amen.
Then it's time the immediate union of the Ein Seif into the Kabudel, where the Kav with the whole union Shmi, Zadal Sayan and not even Iskalas Ha'atzmus Mamish, Mamelu V'Simcha. Gedoyle v'atzuma b'chol ha'elam, so b'miuchad b'elam hazeh.
Amen.